Alright, so here's part 2 of wiring up the standalone controller for this 47RE. I thought maybe I can go over a few things, kind of showing you how to button this up and try to make it look somewhat professional. So a couple things. Again, this is the pigtail. I ended up not using this pigtail that I got and just went ahead with the factory one that I cut. So as you can see, I fed the wiring harness from the standalone controller outside through the firewall and down here. And in the first video, or the first part, I used jumper wires. You can buy packs of these or make your own, whatever, to test this to make sure this is all good. So I've got everything here somewhat buttoned up, and I've got one thing left. This one wire here, I forgot which one this is. But that's not what's important. It's about crimping these wires, connecting these wires. What's the best way to do it? So the best way is to solder the wires and then put shrink wrap over it. So what that would look like, and this is a style of a connector that's got the solder built into it. So these right here come in packs for different sizes, and it's got the solder right there in the middle. And then when you heat it, you also need to sleeve or pull the shrink wrap or shrink wire, let's see here, over it. So the way I've got it set up is I've got this here, and then I've got the heat wrap shrink that I'm going to pull over it over here on this side, and you got to somewhat be careful. Now you don't need to do it this way with this piece. You could just do solder. And this video isn't about how to solder wires. For some wires, I do solder them. For the thicker wires, I use a butt connection that's got the heat shrink on it, like this one here. So in the larger wires, I do that, and when you heat it, it wraps around and actually holds it in place by the ends, and then this is crimped. This works fine for a little bit larger wires, but the smaller wires, you really need to solder them. So you can look that up and see the best way to do that. I'm going to show you also another trick on how to have professional looking connectors. So here's the trick. If you buy an extension connector, and I don't have the part numbers, you're just going to have to look it up. These are a whole bunch that I have for some bumpers and stuff that we built that extend the park sensor, but really you can get any type of wire extender that would feed into itself. So let me show you. I'm going to put this phone down here in a So because it's a nature of an extender, it has a male and a female, and it lets it go in. So on this, if you remember on the first video, so the 47RE, there's 3 connectors that really we care about. And you can delete it if you're not trying to also get some other functionality to work on the functionality within the dash. But the controller, standalone controller, needs to know the speed. So this is a speed sensor here. And needs to know the selector, gear selector, and that's here. So as you can see, I fed that back into the main harness here. And so I'm going back into the main harness and going into the standalone controller. So the instructions don't tell you to do that, but of course you have to do that to get the vehicle to, at least for the neutral safety component, for that to work. So that's going to be important. And that I just did a straight connector, but for this other speed connector, I used this so I can go ahead and connect that in there. And again, I could have just connected it straight, but I wanted a connection to be able to unplug this for removing the transmission. So that, well, actually that would be false, because I could have unplugged it here and then had it a straight connector. But anyway, I had this. It just made it a little bit easier to do some testing. So really, I was probably just goofing around by putting this plug in. It was unnecessary. Now that I think that obviously I could remove that and remove the transmission. So anyway, this is how this looks. This is a type of butt connector that has solder in it. So you can look that up and try that out if you want, or just use regular solder and then just put this on there. But you know, if you're doing a bunch of these, this is so much faster. So that's pretty much it right there. I will button all this up and then have this ready to go for the customer. Again, this is a 47RE mounted behind a 4BT, and it needed some intelligence to be able to shift correctly, so that was where that standalone controller comes in. Anyway, thanks for your time. Bye.